The prayer that was stated when Pope Francis was announced as the new Pope was that each and every one of us pray for him at that very moment. We all need prayers. The pastors need prayers. So just take note. That was his opening public address. Please pray for me. Jesus said to Peter, as he says to each of the other 265 popes, I have prayed that your faith may not fail, and you in your turn must strengthen your own brothers. Some say Pope Francis' election signals the end of the world, and he was to be the last pope, claiming that he is Peter the Roman and the fulfilment of a prophecy by Saint Malichi. We assume that's who it was, that he will be the final pope, that's Francis, and the end of the world is next. Well, what I say to those with that illusion, you better hurry up and convert. The adherents were confessed. Sure, there was an Irish Saint Malichi who lived from 1094 to 1148. His prophecies were not discovered until 1590, and the prophecies were quite accurate up to that day, but they went astray after. So we're talking 550 or so years ago. Whether this was a hoax or a deliberate effort, because in 1590 it was predicted that one of the popes was to be the then cardinal, but that cardinal didn't get elected. It was believed that they used to extend this prophecy and make up components in order to get certain people elected. It didn't work. A religious strategy. And we hear and see of that today, even with the election of Benedict, and in particular Pope Francis. They went against the recommendations of John Paul II, which asks a conclave of cardinals on arrival not to talk about, not to politicise, not to announce, not to go on radio, not to go onto television and talk about and bring about a political manoeuvre to select the popes. It doesn't work, and all it does is cause confusion. And it seems that not even those liberal bishops, but also the Orthodox bishops wanted to get their face on the television with their predictions. Soon the rumours and prophecies will be strangling us as Pope Francis' illness continues. A good sign is to follow what John Paul II said, and then you will see how they're not obeying a discipline which has been put to them, a discipline by the great Pope John Paul II. The thing which we have been asked to do is, if we realised it, and it wasn't on the calendars, on the 20th of this month, 2 days ago, St. Jacinta, Martyr of Fatima, and Francesco celebrated their feast days. And Jacinta in particular, each one of the seers of Fatima had a particular role which they were playing to emphasise a need that the church needed to be awakened to. Lucia was the one who transcribed, wrote many memoirs. She was the one to stay on earth for a little bit longer, another 85 years, to make people aware of the devotion to Our Lady's Immaculate Heart, which is what God wanted. She was also the one that would hear, and Our Lady was directing many messages to. She asked her at later stages of those apparitions to learn how to use the computer, and also she was given the complete formula for the first Saturday devotions. Jacinta was different. She was more quiet, and she had been given a particular role when she saw a vision of the Pope in white, crying, kneeling, and his window getting pelted with stones. And when people would come up to her and particularly ask for a petition, because she was talking to Our Lady, she would give those petitions to Our Lady, but before she would turn to the person who gave her the petition, the request, and say, "And pray for the Pope. Pray for the Pope." She highlighted that her sufferings, that isolation that she had when she did die without anyone present, she offered that for the Pope's intentions. She directed all people to be aware that the Pope in particular needed prayers. She died at 11 years of age, and she died in the year 1919 on the 20th of February. So let us turn in these times to pray for the Pope, because he is our Peter, and the Peter, which is the one which Don Bosco saw, the Bishop of Rome, on the bark of Peter, on the big boat of Peter. There were three components in that vision. There was the Eucharist, the Pope, and also the Immaculate Heart of Our Lady, Our Lady. So in these times, let us turn to that vision, increase our rosaries, realise that we can now obtain 2 plenary indulgences, which encourages to go again to Mass in the same day, and also to spend more time in adoration to strengthen the Pope. We pray for everyone's salvation, and we pray in particular for those who are to lead the flock and to lead the presbyters. So let us bring this into an era of prayer for the Pope. And you'll see, as we have already started to see, a change in world events. The consecration of the Ukraine and Russia to Our Lady is taking a turn. We hope it's turning to the better, that peace will come about. But let us recall that in the Fatima message, that the popes themselves, Pope Benedict, he in 2008, in the presence of 1,600 priests, and in collusion with all the priests in the world, of all the parishes, of all the religious orders, consecrated them to the Immaculate Heart of Our Lady. And now we had the completion, before the Ukraine war, of the consecration of Russia by name and the Ukraine to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. So we're looking for the triumph now, the triumph of Our Lady's Immaculate Heart, but we need to pray for the Pope.